Hey everyone, and welcome back. Get ready, because today we're going way back in time to ancient Babylon
Ooh, exciting.
to take a deep dive into one of the oldest sets of laws ever discovered,
Okay.
Hammurabi's Code.
All right.
We'll discover what life was like way back then, uncover some eyebrow-raising punishments, and see how their legal system compares to ours today.
Wow.
Are you ready for this?
I am. Let's do it. Hammurabi's Code is so fascinating.
I know, right?
Because it wasn't just like a list of don'ts,
Right.
Just
Really
rules.
blessy. It's like a statement.
Yeah, imagine like a giant stone pillar.
Oh, yeah.
Taller than a person, just covered in tiny writing.
I've seen pictures. It's imposing.
Yeah, it's really a bold statement. It was like a declaration of his vision for society.
That's really interesting. But okay, so
Mm-hmm.
let's just back up for a second, right?
Hmm.
We're talking ancient Mesopotamia,
Yeah.
around 1792 BCE.
Okay.
Hammurabi becomes king.
Yeah.
But, I mean, things weren't exactly peaceful back then.
Not at all. No, he inherited a kingdom that really needed stability, strong defenses,
Okay.
and a way to like project its influence.
Yeah.
But Hammurabi, he was up to the task.
So he was a busy guy.
Oh, for sure, yeah. He used this really interesting mix of diplomacy and strategic battles
Oh, wow.
to like secure Babylon's position.
Okay, so he wasn't just a lawgiver,
Right.
but like a warrior king, too.
A little bit, yeah.
Wow, this guy sounds driven.
Driven is an understatement, actually.
Right.
He wasn't content with just ruling Babylon.
Right.
He wanted to unify all of Mesopotamia to create this huge, vast empire.
Wow, that's ambitious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But think about that challenge,
Yeah.
How do you rule a diverse population?
Yeah.
With all these different customs and beliefs? How do you bring them all together?
Ah, I see what you're saying.
And that's really where Hammurabi's Code comes in.
Right.
He needed something,
A set of rules.
well, yeah, like a universal set of rules, something to bind everyone together.
Okay, yeah. I get
And he was so clever because he presented his code as divinely ordained.
Uh-huh.
Like, it wasn't just him making the rules, it was the gods.
Oh, smart.
And it's all carved on this monumental steel.
Right.
And there's this image of him receiving the laws from the sun god, Shamash.
But-
So it's not just decrees from a king,
Uh-huh.
it's a God-given mandate for society.
So he's legitimizing his rule
Exactly.
and setting a standard for everyone to follow, all at the same time.
That's right, all in one fell swoop.
Clever.
Yeah.
Very clever.
Yeah.
So tell me more about these laws.
Right.
How are they organized?
Well, think of it like the original terms and conditions for living in ancient Babylon.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
They covered everything,
Yeah.
from family matters and business deals to property rights and crime.
Wow. Comprehensive.
There were 282 laws in total.
282.
Yeah,
Wow.
all meticulously carved on that giant stone pillar.
It's incredible that we can still read them today, almost 4,000 years later.
I know, it's amazing.
It's really like getting a glimpse into the minds of people who lived back then.
It really is.
So you mentioned some pretty intense punishments in these laws.
Oh, yeah?
Like, what was that all about?
Well, the code is most famous for its principle of an eye for an eye.
Right, lex talionis.
Yeah, exactly. It was a system of retributive justice, so the punishment basically mirrored the crime.
So if you hurt someone, you would get hurt in the same way.
Yeah, basically.
Seems a little harsh.
Yeah, it does to us today. But, I remember you saying that the punishment, it wasn't always so straightforward.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
It often depended on your social status.
Right, right.
Babylonian society was divided into distinct classes.
Right.
There was the Awilu, or upper class,
Okay,
the Mushkinu, or commoners,
got it.
and the Wardu, the slaves.
Okay, a hierarchy.
Yes, very much so. And the punishments, they could vary drastically depending on which class you belong to.
Interesting. You highlighted one example, right?
Yes. Let's see. The code states, if a man put out the eye of another man, his eye shall be put out.
Okay, eye for an eye.
Right. But if a man blinded someone from the Awilu, the upper class, he had to pay a hefty fine instead.
So harming a wealthy person just cost you money.
Basically. Yeah.
But harming someone of your own standing,
Yeah.
you literally paid an eye for an eye.
Exactly.
Wow. That's a huge difference.
It's a stark contrast, right? It shows us how power and privilege
Yeah.
really played a role in their legal system even back then.
It makes you wonder what Hammurabi was thinking.
Well, I think he was trying to maintain order within these existing social divisions.
I see.
It's like he was trying to create a system
Yeah.
that acknowledged these inequalities, but also tried to regulate interactions between the different groups.
That makes sense. Okay, so we're starting to understand the who, the what, and the when of Hammurabi's code. But I'm really curious about the why.
The why.
Yeah, like why create this elaborate legal system in the first place?
That's a great question.
What was he trying to achieve?
Well, to really answer that, I think we need to look beyond just the laws themselves.
Okay.
We need to consider the political and social context of Hammurabi's reign.
Okay.
Remember, this was a king who wanted to build an empire.
Right.
A king who claimed divine authority.
Right.
The code was a tool to achieve those ambitions.
I see.
But it was also,
It was also...
hold on, I lost my train of thought.
Okay, no worries.
It was also about,
Well, actually, you know what? Looks like we're out of time for this part.
oh, okay.
But don't worry. We'll pick up right where we left off in part 2.
Sounds good.
We'll delve deeper into the motivations behind Hammurabi's code
Okay.
and explore how it reflects the values and priorities of ancient Babylonian society.
Looking forward to it.
See you there. All right, so we're back. And before the break, we were talking about why Hammurabi created this elaborate code. It was more than just a list of punishments.
It really was. To understand the why,
Yeah.
we have to consider what Hammurabi was trying to build.
Mm.
He wasn't content with just being the king of Babylon.
Right.
He wanted to create this vast, unified empire.
A unified empire needs unified rules.
Exactly. So Hammurabi's code, it wasn't just about punishing wrongdoers.
Right.
It was about establishing a clear framework for society, a way to regulate interactions, resolve disputes,
I see.
and ultimately maintain order.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. You highlighted a section about building construction.
Yes.
What was it about that stood out to you?
Well, one law states that if a builder constructs a house
Okay.
and that house collapses and kills the owner,
Oh, no.
the builder shall be put to death.
Wow, that's intense.
I know, right? It shows how much they valued craftsmanship
Yeah,
and the responsibility that came with it.
definitely. So it wasn't just about punishment. It was about setting a standard,
Right.
making sure that builders took their work seriously. Exactly.
Wow, no cutting corners in ancient Babylon.
Yeah, they understood the potential consequences
Right.
of negligence.
It makes you wonder, what those ancient construction sites were like. Did they have building inspectors back then?
That's a really interesting question.
Yeah.
While we don't have evidence of formal inspectors,
Okay.
the code itself acted as a deterrent,
Ah, I see.
encouraging builders to adhere to best practices
Okay.
to ensure safety.
So the code acted as indirect regulation, keeping behavior through the threat of punishment.
Yeah, it wasn't just construction either. They also addressed agricultural matters too,
All right.
Yeah, demonstrating their understanding of the importance of land
Right.
and resources to society. For example,
Okay.
one law states that if a farmer neglects his fields
Mm-mm.
and allows them to get flooded,
Oh, no.
and it damages his neighbor's crops,
Oh.
he has to compensate them for the loss. Interesting. Very interesting. So they really understood that you're all connected.
Exactly.
You can't just do your own thing and ignore the impact on your neighbors.
It speaks to a concept we still grapple with today, balancing individual rights with
Right.
the needs of the community as a whole.
That is a great point. It's easy to just focus on the punishments
Yeah.
and miss the bigger picture.
Right.
These laws, they really do reveal a lot about how the Babylonians tried to create, a functional and fair society.
Absolutely. It was about finding that balance between order and justice,
Yeah.
protecting individual interests while also making sure the community could function smoothly.
It sounds like a complex task.
Yeah, it was a complex task for sure. And Hammurabi's code, for all its flaws,
Right.
was really an attempt to address these challenges.
It's also really important to remember that he wasn't working in isolation.
That's true.
This wasn't the first time that a ruler tried to codify laws.
No, not at all. Hammurabi's code was actually influenced by earlier Mesopotamian legal traditions.
Interesting.
It built upon centuries of accumulated wisdom and experience.
So it's like a link in a chain.
Yeah,
A
exactly.
stepping stone
Yeah.
in this evolution of legal systems. I mean, we're talking about a set of laws carved on a stone pillar almost 4,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's still impacting how we think about law today. That's incredible.
I know, it's amazing, right? It really speaks to that enduring power of law as a tool for shaping society
For sure.
and for addressing those fundamental challenges of human coexistence.
Absolutely. And while some aspects might seem archaic,
Oh, yeah.
studying these ancient legal systems,
Yeah.
it allows us to trace the roots of our own ideas about law and society.
It's like we're looking in a mirror,
Yeah,
but one that reflects a distant past,
right.
so we can see how much we've changed,
Mm,
but also how some fundamental challenges have remained the same.
okay, yeah, I get it. That's cool. So we're about to dive into some more of those laws
Yes.
that you found so intriguing.
I am. I think they'll shed even more light on what life was like in ancient Babylon.
All right, let's do it. Okay, so we're back and ready to continue exploring Hammurabi's code.
Yes.
You're about to share some more of those specific laws
Yes.
that really stood out to you.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that really struck me was how detailed the code was
Mm,
in addressing these, like, everyday matters, you know?
right.
It wasn't just about, like, major crimes or anything. It covered things like marriage contracts,
Okay.
inheritance, business transactions.
It really does sound like they were trying to create this, like, rule book for
Yeah.
a functioning society.
Exactly, like a guide for how people should interact, even
Yeah.
in, like, the most mundane aspects of life.
Okay, I like that. So it wasn't just laying down the law.
Right.
It was like establishing this clear framework for,
Yeah.
how people should relate to each other.
Exactly. And, take marriage, for example.
Okay.
The code really outlined the rights and obligations of both
Yeah.
husbands and wives.
Okay.
It addressed, like, dowry, divorce,
Got it.
adultery, all sorts of things.
Wow, so specific. I didn't realize it went into that much detail.
Oh, yeah. And it's interesting.
Right.
It even stipulated that a woman
Yeah.
couldn't be divorced just because she couldn't bear children.
Wow, really? It's pretty surprising.
I know, right?
I mean, given the patriarchal nature of ancient societies,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have expected that kind of provision.
Right. It suggests that women,
Yeah.
they did have at least some legal protections.
It's like, even within these rigid social structures,
Yeah.
there were these nuances and complexities that you don't always expect.
Exactly. And I think it reinforces the idea
Yeah.
that Hammurabi's code, while harsh,
Right.
it was also really an attempt to create a system that functioned fairly
Yeah.
for all members of society.
Of course, within the limits of their understanding of fairness, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so what about business?
Oh, yeah. Business practices. It's fascinating how they delved into that as well.
You mentioned something about contracts
Yes.
and transactions.
So the code stipulated that all agreements,
Okay.
especially those involving large sums of money or property, had to be in writing and witnessed.
Really? Wow.
It's amazing, right? And there were even provisions for dealing with breaches of contract.
So they really had it all figured out.
Well, they were laying the groundwork.
That's incredible. I mean, it sounds like they had a very sophisticated
Oh, yeah.
understanding of commerce. Like, they knew
Yeah,
they needed these legal frameworks to support it.
exactly. Babylon was a major trading hub in the ancient world.
Right.
So these laws really helped to ensure fairness,
Okay.
transparency in business dealings.
It fostered trust and stability.
Exactly. And, it's amazing to think that principles
Yeah.
that we still value today,
Like what?
transparency, accountability,
Right.
they were already being codified almost 4,000 years ago.
That's wild.
It speaks to the enduring nature of
Yeah.
certain human values,
Okay.
and the challenges that societies face in trying to establish this
Yeah.
fair and just system.
It's a continuous effort.
It is. It is. I mean, of course, we've come a long way since then.
Sure.
Our understanding of justice has evolved. Our laws reflect that.
Yeah, definitely.
But studying these ancient legal systems like this one,
Uh-huh.
it allows us to trace the roots
Yes.
of our own ideas about law and society.
It's like you said before, it's like looking in a mirror,
Exactly.
but it's reflecting this distant past.
Yeah.
So we can see how much we've changed.
Uh-huh. But also how some fundamental challenges
Right.
remain the same.
That's a great point.
Mhm.
Well, I think it's safe to say we've all learned a lot today.
I think so too.
We've traveled back in time,
Yeah.
explored this ancient legal system,
Yeah.
uncovered these surprising connections to our own values
Exactly.
and ideas about justice.
I hope it inspires our listeners to continue exploring the history of law.
Yeah, me too.
Its impact on human civilization.
It's a fascinating topic. So the next time you hear about a new law
Yeah.
or a court case or anything,
Right.
take a moment to think about the long path
I know, right?
that led us to where we are today.
It's a story that goes back thousands of years,
Yeah.
to a king with a vision
Mm.
and a giant stone pillar that changed the course of history.
Well said. Thanks for joining me for this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
And to everyone listening, remember, justice, like history, is a story that's still being written.